Welcome back to Validate with Kate. I'm Kate. Today I wanted to talk about cognitive distortions. If you are like me, diagnosed BPD, CPTSD, ADHD, blah blah blah, you've earned your letters. Or you don't. You've grown up in this world. Honestly, as you deal with or avoid daily struggles, I'm sure everyone has had their own personal run-ins with themselves, where there's resistance when it comes to doing things that hold some level of significance. You might experience emotional vulnerability, which is in the realms of DBT, dialectical behavior therapy. Sorry, I'm fidgeting with my water bottle. It's a dialectical dilemma. So emotional vulnerability is where you're aware of how you're feeling, but then you just drown in it. You immerse yourself so deeply, it envelops you. You're just in it. You just experience those feelings of helplessness, you're lost, you're defeated, you might feel misunderstood, like you just can't get your point across. Something that might come along with the emotional vulnerability is that feeling of unrelenting crisis. Crisis or just overwhelming waves of feelings that just seem out of control. They just keep happening. You can't regulate them. You can't ground yourself. And then this kind of overwhelms your ability to manage your social life. So really just you kind of start noticing things at work or school or socially with your friends just kind of start falling apart. And you go into almost a depression. I personally, it gets my heart rate going thinking about it, because it was just a total adrenaline rush. Everything was just out of control. And I mean, the crisis feeling, from the outside, it would seem ridiculous that I was feeling the way I did. And then because I was constantly dwelling on the negative and those cognitive distortions, which I'll touch on here soon, like I mentioned before, everything around me just started crumbling. I dropped one ball, I dropped them all. And the more those little crises went unaddressed, actual crisis started happening. Actual emergency, things that needed to be taken seriously were not being taken seriously. And then when this happens, as you're approaching that chronic feeling of insignificance, loneliness, defeated, you're just done. That's when those active passivity happens, or those active attempts to manipulate your environment to solve your problems for you, or at least end the pain, take the pain away somehow. This is when those impulsive behaviors come into play. Suicidal ideation, substance abuse, quitting jobs, breaking up with your partner, running away, just active isolation, just pushing everyone away. If you kind of relate to this emotional process of the, being emotionally vulnerable, and that leading into a unrelenting crisis, which then can lead to, as it goes unaddressed and unprocessed, going into this active passivity. I'm gonna just wait till I touch on these 10 cognitive distortions. So the cognitive distortions are basically those myths that they're just, what's the word I'm looking for? I heard, oh my gosh, it was on the tip of my tongue. I'm totally losing my train of thought. I'm losing confidence, guys. Hang on. I'm trying to get it back. Okay, so rewind. Now I see why people edit their videos. Okay, so if you relate to that emotional process, the 10 cognitive distortions, okay, it's that cognitive dissonance in your head. It's that, it's kind of ridiculous, but it just feels so right. Like it's setting off those alarms in you that it's the right way to go. So the 10 cognitive distortions are that all or nothing, black and white thinking, the overgeneralization. You pick out that single negative event, just one thing, but that is a never-ending pattern of defeat. And then there's the mental filter, which is you focus on one single negative event and just dwell on that, and you lose sight of everything else. The disqualifying the positive. Even when something good happens, for some reason, you just have it made up that it doesn't count for whatever reason. And then 5 is jumping to conclusions. That is my biggest one. They call this the fortune teller error. It's that just basically assuming the outcome before anything's even happened. This was a big player in my anxiety and everything. Also, number 6, magnification or minimization, or what they call the binocular trick. It's those, not paying attention to the red flags, minimizing the red flags and maximizing or just magnifying these things that might be good about this person, but we're just trying to glorify them to kind of compensate for the crap that we're not quite okay with. And then there's the emotional reasoning, which is that I feel it, therefore it must be true. This is where people get hung up on trusting their gut. It's those memes you'll see. It's dude, I have anxiety. Tell me to trust my gut. My gut is always telling me to abort mission. And it's just, that's that emotional reasoning. You should on yourself. You use should statements. I should have done this. I shouldn't have done that. I should have said whatever. It's that shoulding on yourself. Don't do that. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Whatever. Let it go. I know it's easier said than done. But, that's why it's a cognitive distortion. 9. Big one. Labeling and mislabeling. Extreme overgeneralization. It's use of highly colored and emotionally charged language. That labeling and mislabeling is, instead of stating what you did, your mistake, instead of objectively stating what happened, you just go right ahead and call yourself, I'm a loser. Or if the other person's behavior is the one that is being looked at, you're just like, oh, what a stupid idiot. Like, that's that labeling and mislabeling. And then, of course, number 10, my personal favorite, personalization. You place yourself on the chopping block for something that was never primarily your responsibility. You were never responsible for it in the first place. This was my one of my biggest, all 10. I am guilty of all of them. But especially the jumping to conclusions, the magnification and minimization, and the emotional reasoning. But anyway, so yeah, those are the cognitive distortions. These are what we focus on in DBT skills. And I realize that, not everyone will struggle with all 10. Not everyone will struggle with any of them. Yeah, I understand people are different. I just love how DBT is basically just catered to anybody. And like I've said in a previous video, it's just like, it's good for people that don't have problems, seem to have their head on straight, their life is good. But it's a great way to help kind of bring to light what other people around them might be dealing with and how they can help, how they can respond versus react. How they can help to validate that you do not make people respond the way they do. Your response is your responsibility. You choose. That is your choice. That is everyone's choice. So yeah, just DBT is something that I wish was more readily available anywhere and everywhere. It really does it breaks my heart when I find out that there are people in other countries that don't have access to this information, that don't even know what it is, have never heard of it. And it's like, why? It's so simple, but it's so important. But anyway, I mean, it also, what I tell people is just like, if DBT is not accessible, Buddhism, dude. Yin yang. I mean, it is. That's all being dialectical. Taking the good with the bad. Both sides have truths. I mean, it is. It's all ups and downs. You can't appreciate the light without darkness. So anyway, just keep the awareness going, spread the light, continue the discussions, end the stigma of mental health. I mean, it's just like anything else, it needs to be discussed. So, love yourself, love each other, support each other, and have an awesome day. Love y'all. Bye.